All righty.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get back there. All right. Welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the beautiful day today here in Preston County. We were 69 degrees today. It was quite lovely. And like you said, and everybody else said, we seen the bees a flying, and that's always fun to watch, but also scary because it is winter and the temperatures go up and down, and it makes me nervous to see mine fly, but also excited at the same time. So today is all about colony management. We have a lot, I put a lot of information on each of these slides. So if everyone could save questions till the end, if you could just jot them down so that we can get through. I don't want to keep people on until like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I don't think we'd go that long, but if we get into long discussions and then and I want everybody to be able to get to hear all the information. So, all right. So, I'm sorry, I have this little thing on my, let me get this out of the way. Sorry. Okay. Early spring management of overwinterized colonies. And this is where we're at right now. So early spring management is the main concern is sufficient food stores, disease, and mite control. So those are the things that you should be worried about right now. So we're going to start with food stores. So during the winter, bees will eat stores while moving upward between the combs. Once they've reached the top of the hive, food stores are generally depleted. You as a beekeeper can evaluate how much food they have in there by coming to the rear of the hive and lifting it slightly and seeing if you have any problems with lifting. If it's real light, you have a problem, you're going to need to feed. If you have some resistance, it's kind of heavy, but you can still move it a little bit, you really need to check. And if you can't lift it at all, you got some good stores still in there. And that's just rule of thumb. That's how you want to do it without trying to crack these babies open. So colonies should be assessed, but not opened until temp is at least 40 degrees or above. And really, I don't ever open them that young, but if you need to shove a little bit of food in there, you can just pop and shove, but you can't I would never examine. But best if the sun is shining, like during the midday. Brood rearing can begin as early as January. So just like Sue just said, she's seen some drones in her colony. Well, that could be a brood that has been laid and hatched. And so definitely when, brood is there, things have to be there in order for them to make the brood. We need plenty of food, pollen, water, all that kind of stuff has to be available for them to raise these brood, to raise these bees. Bees will not go down into lower box or move vertically in cold weather, even if food is present. And that sounds what? No, there's plenty of food. My first year, I brought my bees through winter, and it was April, and unfortunately I seen 2 of my hives, they died and they had food right there, and it was heartbreaking to see their little bee bodies in the little cells, like they were trying to gather every last little drop of what they could, and they just died. And I mean, I literally wanted to cry because I was like, oh my God, I starved them. How'd that happen? But there was food right there, but they wouldn't go down and get it, and they didn't move. So unfortunately they passed, and that's a sad, sad day when your bees don't make it. All right, come on now. Okay. So spring feeding, emergency techniques. So you've lifted these hives, and you're like, oh, I got to feed. Techniques are including feeding fondant, sugar boards, or just granulated sugar. When daytime temps increase to allow easy movement of the cluster and occasional flights, syrup can be fed to prevent starvation of colonies with inadequate stores. And you definitely, I think I heard the lady when we first got on, she said she had some of the entrance feeders. Those, you can use them, but they're not recommended. You should feed in the feeders inside, especially during these cold times when it gets cold and it'll freeze. But if it's inside the hive, you'll have better luck with that. So feeding syrup in the spring may save your may save your bees from starvation. But it does act as a stimulus for brood rearing, and increased management will be needed. So you're going to have to be on top of these things. You're going to have to inspect them. And you're going to need to make sure that once you start feeding, you can't stop feeding really or you shouldn't, until the nectar flow starts, because they don't have any food. So if you've started, you're going to need to continue. Diseases, I'm not really going to go into a big production on diseases, because I think the ladies following me are going to go through diseases. So I'm just going to give a brief rundown. So Nosema is a year-round risk. It's a gut disease for the bees. A sign of Nosema are dead bees in front of the hive, brown or yellow streaks on the outside of your hives, like it's bee poo, so it's diarrhea technically. And there are some things that you can use preventative that people put this fumagellin. You can put into some syrups that will help the bees. It's kind of a preventative thing. So American and European foul brood are both bacterial diseases that afflict the larva in the hive. And there is treatment, the terramycin and the antibiotics. And that's something that you can do. Chalk brood is another. It's a fungal disease that affects the brood and causes it to become mummified. It literally looks like a piece of chalk in the cell. Really, the treatment for that is strong hives. They will usually fight this off, and then if you see it, you can cut it out and remove it. It's one that isn't as devastating as some of the others, but still keep an eye on it, and be aware if it's in your hives. Mite and parasite control. So you always hear us talk about varroa mites, and they can affect your bees with viruses that affects wing development. A lot of time there's many treatments, and each beekeeper will do different things. Oxalic acid is a favorite of a lot of us. Mite away strips is some of the other. Apivar, Apigard is just to name a few, but there are, I'm sure, others out there that I'm not naming that you can do. Formic Pro, I think, was one, but some have greater effects. Some after a while they'll build up a tolerance, and so you just got to see what works and just always keep on top of mites, because they will devastate your hives and they will kill them. The tracheal mites, they're less widespread, but they infect the trachea of the bee. And the treatment on that is menthol pellets, or they recommended requeening. Now, I don't really know how, and some at the end, if Phyllis and Deb or maybe even Susan wants to chime in for the treatment of those with the menthol pellets, I'm not sure what you do with that, how you administer that. I've never had to do it. I've never had that issue. But I thought we should kind of mention it. Small hive beetles. If high numbers of beetles are present, the colony will literally abscond. It will abandon and get out of there. So treatment for that is beetle traps, and Phyllis's favorite thing, smash them and, just pop them and get them out of that hive. So we don't want them in there. And they 100% love pollen patties. So when you're putting on pollen patties, if that's something you're doing, watch putting too big of a pollen patty on there, because it's going to draw them in, because that's food. They're going to love that. So wax moths are very destructive. They lay eggs and then they leave. The young hatch and leave this sticky white web material behind in the comb. Treatment for that is literally strong hives. And then in winter, if you have frames pulled, you can use mothballs. And then Phyllis was just talking how a lady used cedar chips down through hers. So there are some ways that you can deal with wax moths and their destruction. But yeah, strong hives, they'll fight them off. They won't let them in. If they're weak hives, yeah, that's a little bit more difficult. I really don't know what I think with that, just really make sure you have some strong hives. And if you end up with wax moths, taking that out of the hive, wherever it is, and getting in there and going through each of your frames and looking for them, killing them, and getting out the infected comb is probably some of the best things that you can do. Making splits or increasing the amount of your colonies. So dividing strong colonies in the spring is a great way to increase your apiary numbers, and it assists you in making up for winter losses and assists you with swarming. So they, in the books, all the books that I read, they say, about 10% is typical winter loss. Sometimes you may come through with 0, and that's luck. And skill. I mean, there's a little bit of both that goes into that. But making splits will help you increase that. It also can assist with swarming. And does anybody know why it would help? Well, no, I'm not asking that question. I'm sorry. We'll do that at the end. So it can assist with swarming because it breaks the hive, of course, into half, giving it more room and giving them something to do. So a strong colony can be split into 2 smaller colonies. A queen cell or a new queen should be introduced at the time of the split. So if you go and do a split, make sure that either the one that you're splitting into the second box either has a queen cell, or you're ready to introduce a new queen into that hive. And you're going to do that by a cage or a push cage or something. Don't just drop that queen in there, because she's new and they'll kill her right away. Techniques, moving a split 2 miles away or a mile away until they're used to their new home can prevent them from returning to the parent hive. So when you split that hive, they could tend to, even though you've done everything right, and you've moved it a little bit away, they may be able to sense their old hive and just fly right out and go back into the parent hive. And that's what you're not trying to have them do. So that is why the technique of moving the hive away from the parent hive can help them be more comfortable in their new home. Reducing the entrance of a new colony can help assist them with robbing. and feeding that new colony comb honey or sugar syrup for up to 6 weeks. As they're a new colony, they don't have a lot of resources, so you're the one that's going to manage that for them, so that they get off on their best foot forward. So you can split into a new hive box or using a double screen board. So there's a couple different ways when you're doing a split. So we just talked about the one where we split into a new box. This one, we're going to use a double screen board. And so it's done by placing the old queen with mostly open brood in the bottom hive. Then you're going to add a second brood box with empty combs or combs of honey on top of that, placing that screened board on top of that second box with the entrance facing the opposite way. So if your front entrance is here, this one has to be behind to the back of the hive. Place the hive box place the hive box with 5 to 6 frames of cap brood. Okay, so place when you're doing the hive box above the screen board, 5 to 6 frames of cap brood, 2 frames of pollen and honey on each side. 2/3 of the bees should be placed in the upper hive box. Once hatched, the new hive can be removed in a few weeks later into its own location. So some of the benefits of the screen the screen board is it's going to have the warmth of the existing hive down below, and the familiarity of the hive itself, so it won't be so resistant. And then once that new queen up top is hatched, and then you can again move it to its new location, and seems to accept things pretty well. Swarm management. Okay, so swarming, it's a natural instinctive behavior of honeybees. We don't like them to do it, but it's instinctual for them. However, for us, successful swarm management is essential for honey production. If your bees swarm and they leave you, you're out. There goes money just flying away. So there's a lot of things that we want to do to prevent them from swarming. What should we look at in the colonies to help us prevent swarming? Overpopulation is going to be one thing. If you see that you're just busting at the seams and you're putting on, and you can put on new boxes. However, if you start to see that they're making queen cells, you need to look at some different, hi Bethany. Some different things. So overpopulation is going to be one thing that you're going to be looking for. A failing or older queen. So that means that when you go in there, you're not seeing or seeing very little brood or eggs. Poor ventilation is another thing. If the hive is going to need good ventilation. Now, when they talked about genetic makeup, it's something I really didn't quite grasp. But I guess when they're talking about genetic makeup, I put a chart up in the last week's session. It talked about some of the bees who were more apt to swarming and some that weren't. And so if that's what they're talking about, and I don't have that in front of me to go over that, but if you look in last week's presentation, there's a chart in there that talks about the genetic makeup and the characteristics of the bees and which ones are more swarm worthy and ones that aren't. So how do we prevent swarming? We provide extra space. How do we do that? Colonies will need the first super at the time of the dandelions. So that's usually around late March. You'll start seeing them pop up. that's a clear sign that it's probably time to add some extra boxes, but you're going to be in there, you're going to be looking. I mean, it could happen sooner, and it's all about inspection and working your bees and looking at them and just trying to figure out what they need. And that sometimes is difficult. And sometimes you bring friends in to go, what am I supposed to do? That's why it's always good to have a mentor or a friend that can come and help you if you're a little bit like, I'm overwhelmed. What does this hive need? If you see queen cells, destroy them. Don't, unless you're making a split or you want to raise a queen, but if not, you need to cut those queen cells out. Do not leave them in there. That is a definite sign that they're going to swarm. And that's not something that you want. So there is a method, and I don't think has Kathy jumped on yet by chance? All right. So there is a method that you can use to help prevent swarming. And I know Kathy was about to, I think she's going to use that this year. So I was going to ask her to talk about it. But I don't know if I'm saying this right, the Demery method, I believe, involves separating the queen from the brood and allowing for the continuation of rapid colony growth. First, you must examine all the frames of the brood in the colony and destroy all queen cells. In addition, you must relocate the queen and place her in the lower brood chamber with frames of capped brood. Then you need to collect frames of uncapped brood, eggs and larvae, and place them in a new upper brood chamber. Next, place the hive body of empty drawn comb above the box with the queen and the open brood. Place a queen excluder on top of the second hive body and put the box of uncapped brood above the excluder. That's a lot, I know.
Rhonda?
Yes.
If they go on our page and they scroll down, we'll put 2 videos on there, and he explains it very well.
Okay. I would, like I said, I was going to have Kathy do it. I had texted her today and asked her. She said she would, but she was going to be running late. And so she's a little bit later than what I thought she was going to be. So I apologize for that, but that's why I was reading it.
Well, so, I think the videos will do them much better than just hearing Kathy.
They will.
Yeah.
And I think Kathy was even going to show a video, but unfortunately she wasn't here. Okay. So that's why I was just kind of reading it. I didn't want to leave just standing there, but so that's going to be posted, or it's already there. Phyllis. She went away. I'm not sure. So evidently there's going to be some videos because that's a lot of steps, and it'd be better for you to actually see it in process. So log on at a later time when you have a little bit of time and view those videos. It could help with the explanation of this method. So equalizing a colony strength makes all equalizing colony strengths makes all colonies productive, can aid in swarm prevention and make management easier for the rest of the year. So if you take a very strong colony and a weak colony, and then you equalize them in your apiary, you're going to strengthen your whole apiary instead of having, this really, really strong hive and this really, really weak hive that you have to work and put all this time in. If you equalize them in the beginning, there's Kathy. If you equalize them at the beginning of your year, it'll be a more smoother process throughout. So strengthen weak colonies by the exchange positions with strong colonies in the same bee yard. You can add sealed brood for strong disease-free colonies. Add queenless booster packages. So that's just a lot of bees into like a weaker hive. You can combine 2 weak colonies to make a stronger colony. And I've done that myself. And by doing that is just papering. It's simple. You put a piece of newspaper on top, and as they are eating down through and up through, they're getting used to the pheromones of them. Now you need to make sure that you only have 1 queen, because usually when you have a weak colony, it's a decent colony and the 1 colony that could be queenless, and then you're papering together. So combine a queenless colony with a queen right colony using that paper technique. Super easy. Just lay it down, put the hive box on, you're done. The bees do the rest of the work themselves. Late spring and summer management. Maintain favorable brood rearing and honey storage, as well as mite and disease management. This will be your concern during this time. That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be running around your apiary. That's what you're doing the entire spring and summer. You should inspect your hives every 7 to 10 days, checking for queen, sign of queen, eggs, brood, making sure your queen has adequate laying space as well as space for honey and pollen. A colony is ready for an additional super when the previous super is half to 2/3 full and bees have started sealing the honey. So those are just indicators that you need another box, another super. Top supering is the most popular method of adding supers. This means you only need to, this means that typically you only need to look at the top hive box to determine the need for another super. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't look through all your boxes. This is just whether you decide to add another super or not. Always when you're in there, inspect your boxes, take a look at your frames. You need to know whether or not you have sign of queen cells, swarm cells. So you need to inspect. This is just talking about putting that box on top, whether I need a new one if they're running out of room. You may need to bait the new super by bringing 2 frames of honey or nectar to the new super to draw the bees upward into the new box. Colonies with drawn comb immediately have space to store nectar and honey. And so last week we talked about the purchase of package bees versus nuke or nucleus hives. When you buy a nucleus hive, they come with drawn comb. So there is that definite benefit. Those bees do not have to go out and take their time drawing out comb. They already have that, and then they can get to work. And so if you're a new beekeeper and you have no drawn comb, like I was my first year, I mean, that's what your bees are going to be doing. They're going to be working to draw out their comb, and then they will store honey and nectar, but it's going to take them time to draw that comb out. Bees can be introduced to work foundation either by bottom supering or by exchanging some drawn comb mixed with frames of foundation, so that you have a clean foundation next to a drawn out foundation, and it will stimulate them to start working that foundation that has no comb on it. Fall management. Your main concern in fall management is to prepare for winter. To bring your colonies through winter will depend on your fall management. So you have to be You have to be on it. You have to be looking. You have to make sure they have the proper things. Poor management will result in starvation, dead outs, and weak colonies that's going to come into spring. So how are you going to prepare for this? You're going to prepare by making sure you have proper arrangement of equipment. You're going to make sure that you're taking off your honey supers and taking off your queen excluders, and that you're getting your bees down into your brood boxes that they're going to winterize through. You're going to make sure your hive has proper ventilation. I've heard this a lot of times. Cold weather doesn't kill bees. Wet and cold weather kills bees. So if they get wet and they get cold, that's when the cold kills them. So they're inside, 90 some degrees inside, they're keeping it warm. On the outside, it's really cold. You don't have it ventilated, it's going to perspire, and that is going to get on the bees, and then the cold is going to come in, and that's how it's going to kill your bees. So proper ventilation, they need that. It's a definite. Adequate food stores. So 100 pounds to 125 pounds for double deeps is what you want to see. And if you have to feed to get them up to that, you're going to use the 2-to-1 ratio. Like for every 2 cups of sugar, you're going to use 1 cup of water. So I have 2-to-1. So it's sugar water. And then you're going to really be concerned with your mite control. Are you going to be putting on Apivar strips? Or are you going to put some mite away strips on? Definitely, are you going to check and do mite washes and to see what your mites are in your hive? Colony strength. You want strong colonies to go through the winter. Again, we already talked about that, removing your surplus honey supers and your queen excluders, making sure that your equipment is right in your apiary to winter through. And this is all fall management. This is what you're going to do in October, November. Quilt boxes or wrapping of hives or frost boards for winter protection. Those are helpful. I use quilt boxes. I went to a training that Phyllis had done with her group, and she talked about quilt boxes and showed quilt boxes, and I have been using them ever since. And they have helped my bees. Also in the quilt boxes, I use the frost board. And I use wood kind of chips that you get that you put in for like animals, like guinea pigs and that kind of stuff. Chips like cedar chips, but not cedar chips, pine chips. Not only do they help with warmth, but they draw moisture from in the hive. The bees can get up there and kind of get some of the dew out of there for water, but it helps keep the hive dry through the winter months. And I'm a big fan of the quilt boxes. I'm not sure what everybody else uses, but everybody does something a little different. So robbing. Careful beekeeping is the best way to combat robbing. How? So during the time of dearth, your bees are going to be frenzied because, food is scarce and they're looking and they work, and they're trying to find. And so when you are working, never leave your combs of honey or supers exposed. Put the hive box down and cover it with the telescoping cover as you're going through. Work quickly, but not so much that it aggravates the bees. You can work on them a little bit in the evening, not at dark, but in the evening. You always should feed inside the hives. I've learned that the hard way. Unfortunately, I had that is it a Borgman? I think the Borgman yes. Feeders that go on the front with that take the quart jars or the half-gallon jars and you put them up front. That's what I was told to use in my beekeeping class. And so I bought them all, and I learned the hard way that it really was, a lot of my hives would fight each other, and that's not what you want. You can reduce the entrance of the hive, so there's less area to protect or guard. So your guard bees will have just less, for these bees coming at them, they have less area to protect. So in the left picture, we're seeing a hive that's being robbed. They're being attacked and they're fighting back. And that's the kind of thing that you're going to see. And it's quite, wow, it's a battle. And here on the right, you can actually see, we got some yellow jackets in there, and then you see bees going at it. They're just fighting because the bees that this is their home, they don't want anybody in, and everybody else wants to come in and steal what they have. So it is a fight. And so on this next slide, I thought this was interesting. So if you look at the comb here on the left side, and that would be, I don't know if you could, yes, here you could see my little mouse. Here, this is comb that didn't have it didn't have anything in it, but over here had food, pollen or honey or nectar. And when this hive was robbed, you can see the difference between the two combs. So this one is chewed all up because they're in there. They don't care. They're in there to steal it and take it back to their hive. So they're not going to be neat about it. So they're just ripping through this, and you see all this jagged comb that happened during the raid. And over here you see nice, really pretty comb. That's because nothing was in it. And over here is what was robbed. So that's one good way for you to be able to tell that this hive had been attacked. You can see it in their comb as well. So feeding bees. Honeybee diet consists of pollen, nectar / honey, and water. Protein, vitamins, minerals, and fats are obtained through pollen. Sugar syrup is the most common feed for bees. 1-to-1 mirrors spring nectar and can be fed to bees during the spring. 2-to-1 is more sugar than water and is best for fall feeding. Now, a lot of people will just automatically do 2-to-1. They like that better, and that is whatever you want to do is fine. I did include a healthy bee recipe. It's something that you'll add to your sugar waters. It's kind of, think of it as a bee vitamin. I've never made it, but I thought it was interesting and I wanted to include it. I don't know if anybody else has made this honeybee recipe. You can also buy the healthy honeybee stuff through your suppliers like Man Lake and Dadant and whomever else. But this is one, and then you put 1 teaspoon per quart of syrup, and then store the extra in your refrigerator, and you can use it all season long. That recipe's there. If you want, if anybody has another recipe that they want to post, I think that would be great too. This is the one I found, and there's many different variations of this, but this is the one that I found that I thought was interesting. Feeding the bees. Sugar candy, sugar boards, and emergency sugar. Sugar candy recipe. 5 pounds of sugar, 2 cups of water, and a tablespoon of white vinegar. Why do we use white vinegar? It helps from mold. Yes, helps from mold. Anything in the hive, and it'll help it so that it doesn't mold. And yeah, emergency sugar is like pouring granulated sugar around the hole in the inner cover, or spread on newspaper that has been placed on top of the frames. And that is just something you need to get in there quick, easy. You got to get them fed. you can do that, or you can make those sugar boards, and then this is like your sugar candy, and they can get up there and eat it as needed. Pollen patties. So pollen patties you can buy, again, pollen substitute, 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 sugar substitute, a tablespoon of honey Bee Healthy. You want a firm consistency. I think I seen a video where Phyllis was making it, and she used a drill and a paddle and was making pollen patties. You want it a firm consistency that can be placed on wax paper. Watch out for those hive beetles. They love this stuff, so they're going to come after it. So put it on piece by piece, let those bees eat it, and then you can get more in there. Why do we feed pollen or pollen patties? Simply for brood rearing. They need this stuff in order to help raise bees and to bring along the colony. So I love some of these photos, so I had to include those, a lot of them. This is me and Deb Main when Deb Main came out to my apiary and helped me when I was having an issue. And here we are. This is summertime, ladies, and this is how you're going to look when you come out of your bee yard. You're not going to be polished. You're going to be sweaty and gross. But hey, it's okay. We had a great time that day, and I very much appreciated Deb coming out. And the rest of these pictures are from either the workshop or the retreat that the Women Beekeepers of West Virginia puts on. I highly recommend, if you can get a spot, to jump into those. I've learned so much as a beekeeper, I can't tell you. And on top of learning the friendships that I have garnered, I so much appreciate and feel very fortunate to this day to be able to have. So just wanted to share those. I thought that was fitting to share those at the end. And we always have a good time. You see smiling faces, even though we're all out there hot, sweaty, gross, doesn't matter. We're smiling and we have a good time because we love our bees and we love our beekeeping ladies. So does anybody have any questions? I know it was fast and dirty, but I wanted to make sure I could get through all of this so that you had it and you can always rewatch it. But there's so much information when it comes to colony management that I was just trying to get as much as I could in there. So does anybody have questions?
I'd first like to say thank you. You did an excellent job.
Excellent.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
Glad.
welcome. You want to take it off a screen share and we'll get back to everybody's face.
Stop sharing. There we are.
There we go. Thank you. You guys don't have any questions?
This is like the big stuff, ladies. This is what you're going to be looking in these hives going, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
Right. Right.
Thanks, Sue.
Okay, I have one thing, an issue with, I think I'm going to try to split my hive this year, but I have a bear problem. So my bees are surrounded by electric fence.
Right.
I can't really move them anywhere. I would have to put up a whole nother fence and I don't have the space for that.
You don't have to do that. You just have to, if your fence only borders what you have, like if you have 4 hives and it only lets you do 4 hives, then all you have to do is extend it. And that's not hard at all.
Well, I only have 1 hive in there right now, and there's probably 4 feet around it all the way around. And so then I go in but I want to open it up to maybe having 3 hives this year. I'm probably going to buy another nook. I already have the boxes. I actually have already drawn comb frames. They're in a plastic tub. They're in my shed, so they're out in the weather. They're stored pretty good. And I'm going to open up these boxes, but I'm going to have to put all 3 within this fence. And if I separate them, like she was talking about how if you put them too close to the mother hive, they might go back over
They might.
there
Mhm.
or kill the queen, so how can I fix that problem?
Well,
Just
they, they shouldn't kill the queen.
No.
You're talking about robbing, but if you do the split, then the queen's going to go with that hive and just
right.
put it.
So when I did it last year, I bought a queen for the new hive.
Okay.
Like that's what the guy instructed me to do. He sold me a queen. So I had the mother hive with half the colony, and then I took the other half the colony, put it in a new box with a new queen. And that's the one. I don't know if they killed the queen or if she took off or whatever, but the queen was no longer there after about 3 weeks.
Okay.
And I had to just put them back together because I
Right.
wasn't going to buy another queen. It was too late in the season.
Right. Right. Well, to do what you asked about is to expand. So you either have to get another stand or make a stand that all of them can fit on. Because if you only want 4, then you can have one stand there, and you can put, I mean, my bees, the girls can tell you, they are side by side by side by side,
Okay.
and we hardly have any problem whatsoever. Now, just like Rhonda said, that when you split that hive, it's going to be little, so you only need a little hole for them to go in and out that they can defend.
Oh, so you don't open the whole entrance like they say?
Not on a baby hive, no.
Oh, okay.
No, the other bigger, stronger hives will beat it up.
Yeah.
That's when they'll come in and rob them.
Yeah.
And so, Emily, you asked a question about the entrance reducer. You can use entrance reducers, whenever you want, whenever you see a problem. The entrance reducers, they have the small hole and the larger hole. I keep mine on, and then when it's really hot, I make sure that I open it up. I think Phyllis you don't really use entrance reducers, do you?
I don't, and if I have a problem, I gather grass. Yeah,
Rhonda?
there's one. And
That's the big hole and that's the little hole.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can use a handful of grass and put in there because they can chew themselves out of that. So entrance juicers are not a must, only for the babies. And that's if you set it beside a big hive. When I make my nukes, I don't put entrance juicers on them unless I start seeing a problem, because I want that flow to, for them to come.
Because
Yeah,
ventilation is key in there.
Well, but I want them to be able to go and
Come in
come
and
and,
out. Yeah.
full loaded with honey and stuff, and not have to wait at the door to come in.
True.
Yeah.
But that
You're on mute, Donna.
Emily,
ahead.
that is 100%. It is your preference on how you want
Right.
to do. Yeah.
Do you
Right.
feel like there's more of
wrong
a chance
answer.
of robbing when you don't have an entrance reducer, or no?
I can't answer that because it all depends what's going on. Now that brings me something that I wanted to say. If you guys use lemongrass or honey bee healthy, you need to really watch and definitely feed inside the hive, because those big hives can smell that, and it's an attractant, and that's why they use it. So I don't use it at all in any of my stuff, because I use my honey and my pollen patties, and they devour it. So, and they smell like pollen. So just know, I mean, they have things out there for
I
you.
learned,
You don't always have to use what they say. Go ahead.
I learned the hard way with Honey Bee Healthy. Causes rob.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I've
Yeah,
never used it. So,
Yeah,
but I've
good
seen
girl.
the recipe and I put it on there as an option for people. But
Yep. Just
I
be
mean,
careful.
I didn't know that actually was a problem because I've never used it.
Never
Yeah.
during a dearth.
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. Never
Okay.
during a dearth.
Is your recipe on the website or the Facebook page, Phyllis,
For my
the stuff?
pollen patties?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I make 60. Yeah, you can scale it
Break it
down,
down.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Hers is in a big 5-gallon bucket with and she's in there with a mixer.
yeah. Yeah. But yes, I have that, and you really don't need to feed them a lot, because I mean, I feed them early because I produce bees and sell them. But for backyard people, you don't need to do that until probably April. And they only need a little bit just to give them a boost. You don't need a great big patty thrown at them. Like Rhonda said, you're going to end up with small hive beetles, and
Yeah.
that is not what you want.
Mhm.
I have to cover when Rhonda was talking about, working in a dearth, because that's usually when you're pulling honey, unfortunately, unless you won't do it. But we started taking it early and then letting them fill that to save us money so we don't have to feed them so much. But that's a whole different ball game. But so when you're working there, you can put a pillowcase over them, just lay it on top of them, nothing fuzzy that they'll stick to, or a feed sack. Like if you're using, because we use our lids sometimes upside down and put our boxes on there.
Yeah.
And when you're looking in this box and this box is exposed, just throw a pillowcase or a sheet over that, and then it calms them down. And then it takes the robbing out of the air. And there's another thing, but I think I'll shut up for a minute, but I do want to say this before you guys log off about baiting a super, but I think I'll just do it anyway. I'll do it and then I'll shut up. If you have a deep brood and a medium, I think Emily, this pertains to you. We talked the other day when we were fishing, and I was like, yeah, go ahead. So she's going to have a deep and then a medium, which is actually going to be another brood. But then how does she get that going? Okay. Or you have two deeps and your medium is up here, but you guys, you new beekeepers, you need, something to bait them with, and you don't have anything but foundation or foundationless frames. So you take that frame that's in your medium and put it off to put the box off to the side, and take that frame and put it down in your brood box where the deep box is, and just leave it for about a week. And then they will pull that out no matter what you're using, foundation, foundationless, whatever, or waxed. And then it's ready to go up at the top. And then you can put it in the middle of the box and then put your super on there.
Mhm.
Does that make sense to you all?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But that's how you get your wax drawn. Now, if you leave it in there too long, then they're going to do drone comb on the bottom.
Yeah.
Which is no big deal. If you're not mating, you don't need it. You can
Pop it.
scrape them off and use it as a mite treatment and boil it down after they're dead, and make some candles with it. So, okay.
Yeah, thanks for catching that. I wasn't even thinking about, having a deep on the bottom.
Two
and a
different
deep on the-
sizes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Or I would have covered that. Sorry, guys, I left
No,
that.
that's good. That's
But
what
I'm
we're all
glad that
here
you
for.
jumped in on that. Yeah,
There's,
no, I'm glad
there's
you did.
so much that
There is.
it's
Like trying to figure out what to cover and
Yeah.
how to cover it was what was driving me absolutely nuts.
Oh, I know. I know.
I had all these notes and trying to figure out what to leave you with.
Right.
Was difficult.
You did great. You touched a lot of points, and that, I mean, I've never seen your presentation done so well in a beginner's class. So you did
You
very
were
well.
talking about the
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.
awesome.
I always keep 2 pillowcases in my
Right.
to cover. I always had a couple there. Old-
Oh, pillowcases. That's a good idea too.
I use old pillowcases, and
You
they
said
fit.
that.
She did
Yeah.
say that they
Yeah.
fit perfectly on top of a box.
She wasn't listening.
I wasn't. I didn't hear that.
I heard it. That's why I said, yeah, I have.
I said
always-
pillowcase or feed sack or something like that.
I heard feed sack. I didn't hear
Oh.
pillowcase.
I keep old tea
I want the
towels.
credit. I want the credit.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you,
Thank
God.
All right, Kathy, take it away, babe.
My turn?
I
Yeah.
think so. Rhonda, is
Yes,
it her?
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to show you the Demari method.
Tamari. Yeah.
Demari,
Thank you.
it's for swarm control,
Yes.
and it was devised by
And honey producing.
and honey producing by George Demery in 1884.
Look
When
at
I
that.
went into our book here that we studied on last year, it was all in diagrams, and I can't do diagrams. Diagrams make me crazy. So
Right.
I set it up. See if I can explain it to you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, this is our original box. Can you all see it?
Mhm.
I can even bring you a little closer. For my basement. She's a strong honey producer. I like this hive. So I want to keep my same footprint though. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off my lid. My inner cover. My hive super that I have going. Put that aside. And my entrance reducer. Now, we're gonna assume that
Plane excluder.
my queen excluder. We're gonna assume that my queen is in this bottom box. So I'm gonna take off my top box and put that aside. I'm gonna take this box, which is my original box, and I'm gonna move it over to this. Right over here, so I have still have my same footprint. My new box is gonna go on here. It has 9 frames in it. I'm gonna take one more out. We're gonna take out my queen. She's on this frame and she's got lots of brood and open eggs on both sides. And we're gonna put her right in the middle of this box. All by herself. And then I have all drawn comb in here. I'm gonna take one frame and I'm gonna shake some bees in there. I'm gonna take another frame and shake some bees in there. Bees in the center, it's all set. Now, I'm gonna add a queen excluder. Queen excluder goes here. Then I'm gonna add my honey supers. The honey super I just took off. They've already started the honey. I'm gonna put it on. And then I'm gonna put on my second honey super. I want lots of honey out of this hive. And that goes on here. Then we want some kind of a shim. And a shim has another entrance hole on it that the bees can come in and out of. Put my shim. First, I gotta put my entrance reducer on up here. My queen excluder, excuse me, my queen excluder. My shim
Yeah.
has a screen on it. I don't want a screen. I just want the shim with a hole. The hole goes in the back, so there's a back entrance.
No, Kathy.
No?
No, you don't use, the only thing that you do is the queen excluder.
Okay, I thought they called for a shim.
No,
back
not the
entrance.
one that I watch because
Okay.
they go up and down because there's only one queen in that hive and they go up and down.
Okay, so now I have queen excluder, 2 honey boxes, queen excluder. Now, you're gonna get it really strong and you're gonna take your original box, bottom box, top box, and you're gonna lift it up and you're gonna put it up here. And this has 10 frames of bees.
I'm gonna check it out so I
Okay,
won't lead you astray.
well, we can, yeah. Put it back together. Okay, I got my really heavy box up here. My inner cover. And my top lid. She's down here. She's got 9 empty frames, drawn comb, and 1 frame with eggs, cat brood, and a queen. She thinks that her hive is swarmed, so this should stop any swarming. The bees will still come back up here, go all the way through the boxes and up to the top. The top has no queen. You have to go back to this top box in 5 days and look for queen cells. You can do multiple things with it. You can take queen cells out and start queens. I have a queen castle. That's what I want to do. You can pull them all, After that, she won't have enough eggs to make any more because she doesn't have a queen up here. So once you kill all those eggs, go back and you just got bees up here, but no queen. But you still have the pheromones from down here to go up. Your original box, you have 9 frames of active bees. You can strengthen up other hives that are weak. You can make nukes. You have 9 frames to play with. You check this in 5 days, decide what you want to do with those queen cells. If you kill them all, after that, she can't make any more. She won't have any young eggs to make. In about 4 weeks, they should be completely drawn out. What I thought you could do is with this, the way it is, when I take off my honey supers, I take it back down to my original 2 boxes. And
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
the demo. Any questions?
Well, I have a comment. I went to the video that we saw, and
Right,
he did the um
shim.
thank you, the shim, but it did not have a screen in it, and he dropped a queen cell in there, which he should have had a queen cell, so it's really weird.
Right.
But you were stopping all the bees with the screen.
Well, I know, I said without the screen, it's
Oh,
the
I'm
only
sorry.
I had right there. I said,
Okay,
just my shim right there.
okay.
You can
Yeah.
give that top box another entrance that they go on the back if you have a shim with just a hole.
Yep, yep.
My
So
shim,
don't cut them off is what we're saying.
right, you don't cut them off.
Yeah, that was good.
But
Thank
they're
you.
gonna
That
all
was
come
good.
back in here. That's why I want to keep my footprint, because they're all gonna come back in and they're gonna work their way up again.
Yep.
It just gives you so many different opportunities. You should get more honey. They say that a lot more honey from what I've read.
Right.
And it'll stop the swarming because she's already thought she swarmed.
Yep.
And they'll tell you I'm a swarm queen.
That was good.
So
Thanks.
you're gonna do that on all your hives, Kathy?
I'm gonna do it on 2 of my hives. I got 2 hives that are gangbusters. One of them was my strongest honey producer last year and the year before, even though last year wasn't a really good year.
Right.
So she's destined for it.
Hmm.
I have 1 hive that's a deep and a medium. I'm gonna change that to 2 deeps. So I've got a project with that one. And then my other hive, she's got some equipment issues. I got to change up a few things. So I'm going to be doing something else with that. So I'm going to do this with 2 hives and it'll keep me busy.
I gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know about my honey. I think that's
Well,
going to be
the nice thing about this too is once you do this and after you do whatever you want to after 7 days with the top box, if you want it to just all hatch out, whatever, then you go in and kill all the queen cells, or you make splits out of that box. And so whatever, after you do that, then you can leave them for 2 to 3 weeks if you have enough supers on them.
right.
So that top box, if you leave it to just hatch and let it become a super, then you would just take that queen excluder and that shim out, and then it becomes one hole, and then they can fill that deep in with honey. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
like-
want honey in that top box.
I'm sorry.
So I don't want honey in that. I don't want honey in that top box, do I? Or maybe I do for food.
You can. That's what I said. If you're not going to expand and you
Right.
don't want any more queens, then that top box. Now, if you want to keep that as a brood box, then you can take the brood frames out after they hatch and then put honeycomb in it. If you want to be that anal. Me, I don't care.
No.
So,
No, I
and then
just,
they will fill that and it'll
I
become
do
a
want to
super.
make this back to its original 2 boxes. Because I'm gonna have 9 frames off the original bottom that I'm gonna put 9 frames in queen castles, I hope. 3 queen castles.
Well, yeah, that's your option. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, if they don't want to, that blue box can become a super.
Yes.
And then now you have 3 supers on there. After you take that queen excluder out,
Mhm.
then you can leave, like if you wanted to go on vacation, if you did
Right.
every hive that way. So, But
It's
if you're gonna
not-
do queens and, then after you make your split and you put that queen cell, frame in your new nuke, then you can still leave because you have, what, 20 some days, 16 days for you to come back and see if she made it back. So
Right.
yeah, there's a lot of great options there.
One thing you gotta make sure is that that one frame you put in there cannot have any queen cells whatsoever, just
Right.
the queen.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
Can
Yeah.
that be used with an 8 frame and a migratory lid also?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
the migratory lid, you would still put the spacer at the top?
Here, migratory lid.
Spacer at the top.
Well, that,
I got
shim?
what's that?
Yeah.
Shim,
Yeah,
shim.
the
That's what I
shim.
meant to
And
say.
the only thing the shim does, it has a hole in the back and it lets that box go out. And all of that really does is because you moved and they're gonna, you move the bees up, they're gonna
Right.
fly out and they're gonna go down in the bottom where they think they have swarmed or, whatever. And then, or you can leave 2 cells in that one. And then once, after 7 days, you can leave 2 cells in that one, put a bottom on it and carry it off somewhere.
Hmm.
So, and
Yes,
you
'cause
just
the
increased your hive.
Because your migratory lid has like a piece that comes down over the side. So would that hole be exposed that way with the shim or no?
The shim is underneath that blue box.
Oh, okay.
It's not,
Yeah,
it's not up top.
okay. I was thinking it was on the top. Okay, I got
It's
confused.
in here.
Okay, okay.
After your honey supers, your queen
Yeah, I
excluder.
screwed her up because I told her to take it off. So that's why you're not seeing that. So
Okay, I get it now.
because I
Yeah,
didn't hear her say, it's not supposed to have screen in it.
Right.
So, because it was like, no, that's wrong. You want your bees to flow up and down.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that
the
was
only
for a
thing,
sugar board. That's 1/2 inch holes. They can get through it, but I wouldn't put it on there anyway.
right, right.
So
Hmm.
this method, is it best used with these gangbuster hives, as you call them?
Yes.
That's
You
the
want to
ones
do it
that
in a
you-
flow. Hmm.
And it won't retard their honey production at all?
It'll improve their honey.
It'll
production.
increase it.
It really will.
Well, it's just because like when you do a single brood chamber production, then it
Mhm.
increases it because that's all the frames that the babies they have to take care of. And then everybody else is bringing in honey because
now
they
it's
don't have
clear.
anything else
Okay.
to
Rhonda,
do.
you can, these 2 boxes get full, I could add another honey super.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you don't have the equipment, you can bring it in and hopefully you have a spinner, you can spin it out and put it back on.
Put it right
Right.
back on.
Hopefully the
Okay.
same day if you're in a flow.
I got you.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow,
it's
that's
very
interesting.
interesting. I'm
It is.
very excited
Yeah.
to do my honey producers that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. Because I want to ramp up honey production this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
that's all we're in it for is just daily honey. So
mhm.
that looks like an awesome,
Now, I like pollination too. I like them to pollinate my gardens.
Oh, sure.
yeah, that too. Yes.
Well, since we've been having bees where we're at, we have a friend that hikes daily and he, tells everybody what they've seen and checks the cameras and everything because we have 2 leases. So he's the main guy on that. We call him our mayor. But he said, since we have been keeping bees, it's unbelievable the change of mass up there in the forest. And because it's just pretty potent now. So it's amazing what
My
bees can
next door
do.
neighbor told me how much her garden changed when I moved in.
Yeah.
Mine
She
too.
couldn't believe the difference. She goes,
Mhm,
and they're so
mhm.
nice and gentle. They just love my Russian sage.
Until they're not.
Exactly.
Until they're not, yeah.
I've seen some of those today on video too.
Oh yeah, we've had some, and then we sit there and wait and try to find what hive they go to, or crack them open, and then we say mean with this frowny face, and then we give them 4 tries, and because there might be things wrong. It might be a dearth, might be a varmint, and they might not have a queen. So there's I think I put on today how you know six or nine ways you know your hive is queenless before going through it. So yeah, I found that very interesting. But
So is
yeah,
that not true? Like somebody, a friend of mine said that they leased their property to a beekeeper. And I was saying how I'm gonna plant some stuff in my yard this year, cause I have 4 acres. And it's not gonna be like right next to my hive, but she said that their beekeeper said there's no sense in planting stuff for the bees, cause they go 2 miles away to eat. They don't eat out of their own yard.
They eat
They
out of their own
will-
yard.
they'll eat right in front of their hive.
That's right.
Like,
Okay, I
My
didn't
yard
think
is,
there was truth to that. I just thought that was really strange, and I'm like, well, my bees eat from across the yard. Like I see
Yeah.
them
my
out.
bees don't have as bad of a dearth as some people do because I plant so much.
That's
Yeah.
my goal. Yeah, that's my goal. I have tons
well,
of
you
stuff.
guys can
planted.
you can look into the NRCS, and that's what I was telling Emily the other day. And we did it last year, and we did 4 acres, and they gave us about $3,000 worth of money, and our seed was 2,700, and we got reimbursed with. You have to pay for it up front, and I just put mine on a credit card. Gave them the receipts. They paid me right away, and not a problem. But if you're interested in it, we found a really good seed place where we bought ours. And because when we did this program, I sent my the list that they want you to buy from and use from them. I sent it to Shanda and to analyze it. And she wrote back to me and she said it was 76% grass feed. So because they want the pollinators, they're not doing it for the honeybees. They're doing it for the pollinators. And so I told them, it was like, if I have to use this, I don't want it. And she's like, no, just say you are. It's fine. And so we did I got that little book that Rhonda, did you show it? Or Sue showed the little book about plants. I think
Oh, I
Sue,
did. The 100.
you did. Okay. Well,
to
well,
feed the bees.
I bought this book and it is
Extra
absolutely
society.
wonderful. And it's worth the money. It's not expensive. Yeah.
Check your local libraries, guys. They may have it for you so that you
I
can
have
get
this,
it
see, I
before
had
you
to
buy.
freeze, that's what I based my, my talk on.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
love that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And it tells you like if it's deer resistant or bees like it or butterflies. And so it's great resources. Yeah. And it has them down under and the location where yeah, I'm pointing those. Yeah, where it grows.
Where it
And
grows.
but if I would only be able to buy one book in the bee world, it would be that one right
I
there.
tried to get everybody to pick that up last year. I told Terry about it. Rhonda picked it up. It's a great
Absolutely.
book. Great book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And get it secondhand. I'm sure you can find it cheap if your library doesn't have it. And yeah. So who's the author?
It's the exercise society down
Yes.
the bottom.
Can y'all see?
That's
Sorry,
okay.
but
I'm
Perfect.
glad you showed us because I would have never spelled that right.
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, yeah. And also later, I mean, earlier, and get my timing right, I put on that moth killer that you can spray I put it on our Facebook page while Rhonda was talking. So, and it's I think up to $27. And if you guys, any of you live close together, you could buy it and share it because you only use like a half a teaspoon or I think in a quart or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it goes forever.
Oh,
So,
okay.
mhm. Yep. So,
Nice. Very nice.
So back to the stupid beetles. I actually have a lot of those.
Hive beetles? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, them little black things. I had
Yeah.
a lot of them last year and I bought them stupid things that you put oil in and you put down in between your frames and
Yep.
they didn't really work. Like I honestly only had like 5 beetles in one and maybe 3 in the other. And every time I open the lid, the beetles scatter and it's
Right.
gross because they look like cockroaches. And I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell?
Well, they're
And I
worse
do
than
smash them.
cockroaches.
Yeah, I do smash them.
Good.
But then somebody told me about the Swiffer
Uh-huh.
dusting
Sheets.
pads.
Yeah.
But where
Swiffer
do you
sheets
put those?
in each
Right,
corner.
Susan?
Yeah.
You
just
put
for the
them
animals.
on top of the frames or down under on the entrance?
Well, how's it look so far?
Well, if you have uh and you guys correct me because I don't use them, but an inner cover, you can put them on top of the inner cover on each end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
But you want
they're
to
open.
take them and you don't want them to smell. It's, non-scented, and you want to take them and you want to rub them to make them fuzzy, and you will kill bees, but you won't kill a lot. So I tried them and I killed more bees than I did small hive beetles because I didn't really have them.
Mhm.
I went to a
Oh,
seminar and this guy did it, and he puts them in a little Tupperware thing. So the beetles crawl in, and you could always put like a little pollen patty if you had it
Bait 'em.
in there for like a bait.
Mhm.
And yeah, now I
Yeah,
have,
definitely go after that.
yeah, yeah. So,
what
but
do
yeah,
you guys use that's better? Because I did try it last year, and
I
I
don't
did have
have them.
bees in them. Oh, you don't have the beetles at
I don't,
all?
well, I might see one, and
Oh,
one hive might have 2 in them, and I chase them down and kill them. But
I think
now when we
a
were
lot
in,
of sunlight helps.
Yeah.
Are you in a lot of
Mhm.
sunlight?
I am, but I'm also right next to a river
Yeah,
and
that's the moisture.
the
Yeah, you
dampness,
got your
yeah,
moisture. I was gonna ask that because I had one
Yeah.
hive that had a lot of beetles, and then I helped with ventilation, and it just basically corrected the problem for
well,
me.
now we were talking, you can get, Kathy, what are those? Neptunes or
Nematodes, beneficial nematodes.
I was close. Nematodes. And you can you can pour those in the front of your hive, and they go into the dirt. And then when the larva comes, the beetle lays the egg or whatever, and it turns into a larva, it crawls out of the entrance and it falls down into the ground, and then it mutates down in the ground, and those nematodes, they eat that larva.
okay. Yeah, I
But
was thinking about covering the ground under my hive to keep
It
those larvae from going in there.
yeah,
That's what I'm gonna do this year
yeah.
to try to just
It would be really
that
good
down.
to do it before uh, winter is over. So, because they're going to come out with a vengeance if you have that many as soon as it starts getting warm, because they hibernate in there with the bees all winter long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do it then. I'll do it this as soon as the weather permits. I have this really thick, heavy duty industrial
Yeah.
plastic, and I'm
Yeah.
just gonna lay it on the ground.
As long as the larva can't get through that,
Right,
that would
yeah.
work. Hmm.
Would you
Okay.
advise covering the ground before even putting, like me getting my hives? Would you advise covering?
Well, we did in this new out yard, we did, just so we wouldn't have to weed eat so much close to them. And we
Right.
did road mat under them, and then we set their thing there, and it's worked really well. So I would definitely, if you had it, and why not? As like, make it wide enough that because I have found in one section we didn't make it wide enough, and the wind blows it, so I need to take maybe a torch and light it, along the way, and get stung while I'm doing it probably, but because it's just, they fray, that stuff does.
Yeah,
So, but I do know that there's some at Walmart that I've bought, just for my yard, and it's probably wide enough. Probably need to buy 2 of them. But we have like she does, the industrial, because my husband's a contractor and he makes roads and stuff. So we have that real long, and it works really great except for that frame.
I was
Mm.
looking at things at Tractor Supply one day because I thought about putting something under them, and it's the
Mhm.
pads that Lindsay uses to milk her cows on. Have you seen those great big? They're like heavy. I mean, they're super heavy, and
Just like what they use in horse stalls,
they
probably.
might, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they're probably like
Yeah.
about that thick.
Yeah, they use them in horse trailers.
But I thought 2 of those would be awesome side by side because I'm not going to have a lot of hives.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're super heavy and they're not really cheap either. So,
Right. No, I don't think you'd have to go that expensive because you could lay this down and if you wanted to, you could pour gravel,
Mhm.
you know,
right.
just something. And you can use Epsom salts, a little bit of dish soap and vinegar to spray underneath your bees if you wanted to. And when I was small, I did my fence, but now my fence is, you know, a whole field, so I can't do that, and it keeps the weeds down around my fence. But so does a
What,
weed whacker, and it's cheaper.
what do you ladies think about putting the cream of wheat on the ground for the piss ants? Someone told me to do that and I
I've never
tried it.
heard that.
No,
Yeah,
I never heard
either.
of it.
I've heard of
Someone-
cinnamon. We
Cinnamon.
use organic cinnamon in our hives.
Yeah.
Well, someone said if you put the cream of wheat, they eat it and then it expands in their gut and blows them up.
I'll let you know.
So I do have piss ants too, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my yard is right next to the river. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I put the bees there so they'd have access to the water and because it's the most sunniest place.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
they will fly 2 to 3 miles for water.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if it's damp, then I think you need to move your bees and get them on a sunnier plateau if you
Mhm.
can.
Or ants.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Organic.
Emily, it's used for ants. Sometimes they'll come into the top of your hive, and you can sprinkle a little cinnamon in there, and it'll.
I see them crawling up my hive. I can
Yeah.
see a line of
Sure.
crawling up the hive, going up into it, and I'm smashing them all.
Mhm.
But I don't
Cinnamon.
like, it doesn't seem to get, they don't seem to get too much in the hive because when I
Mhm.
open it, I don't really see a lot of them. I just see them crawling around on the outside more.
I've had some, some
Inside.
older lids and they get damp and they just love it. And you go like this and it's just covered. So I just take my hand, gloveless, whatever, because they won't hurt you. Well, they bite sometimes, but I just go like this and just have whole, gobs of dead ants on my hands because I would rather sacrifice myself than, let my bees suffer with ants. So, and then they get in the sides and they will eat your boxes. They're,
Oh, okay.
yep. And it's not just the long, like carpenter ants. Those little ones, if it's any little bit of damp, they're going to tear your boxes up, your equipment.
Oh,
So you
okay.
want to try to keep them out of there. And they aggravate the bees.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
watched a video where people, like if you build your frame with legs, they turn bowls upside down
Yes.
and put water in them or whatever. And then that way the bees, when they climb up, they can't get up the leg of the stand or
ants.
whatever.
Yeah. Hmm. I've seen that, but I wondered about, and I've seen them put oil in it, and I've wondered about how many, because bees are stupid, and I
I
wonder
know.
how many bees have died in that.
Well, and I thought
So,
moisture and just, that wet, I don't know.
right. Oh,
And then
yeah.
somebody said Vaseline, like you could put it around the legs. If you have metal legs, you could, put Vaseline around it because they won't climb
That would
up them.
probably, yeah, that makes sense.
I guess you could put that on wood too. I don't know. I have to watch so many videos.
Oh, I know. I know. They get monotonous after a while.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What about I put a lot of hummingbird feeders around my yard too, but
Mhm.
I find a lot of bees that are inside them dead when I open them up, but they're
Hmm.
not my honeybees. They're the other kind of bees. They're yellow jackets and stuff.
That's
I
good.
find,
Kill everyone you can find.
Absolutely.
I smash them all day long.
Me too. Me too.
okay,
Um,
I just want to
there's-
make sure I'm not encouraging them by hanging. I have like 5 hummingbird feeders I hang through the yard.
My
Right.
hummingbird feeders don't get bad until the dearth, and then
Dearth.
I have a problem.
And then go feed your bees.
If there's a dearth.
So it's a good thing to have at least one hummingbird feeder, so you know can watch it, and when they're attacking it or won't leave it alone or coming around, smelling it, then you need to see, check your hives, see if they're heavy enough, and if they need feed them. So
Okay.
it's, yeah, but there's a trap that we all put out in the spring, and actually do it the 1st of March if you can. I can't get mine until the middle of March, but you put that out there with this stuff,
Where is
like
mine?
yeah, you got one, and but you want to catch the queen because she's the only one that survives all through the winter. Kathy's got one; she'll show
Well,
you.
I take a jug like this. My husband likes Hawaiian punch, and I put a hole right here. And then all you put in there is red wine vinegar, a banana peel, sugar. I'll post it again, but you put it up really early. And
Yep.
I actually hang it on one of
All
those.
over, make many.
I make a couple of them, and I have them near my vegetable garden, 2 near my beehives. You know those shepherd hooks? They're hanging up there, and I don't care what they look like, they work.
Right.
So, it gets filled disgusting with
When it stinks, so empty them
it
early.
stinks so bad. And since he likes these, so I save the jugs. I throw that one away and I'll put up another one, but you really want to get them up early. And I'm going to remind Cheryl because Cheryl had a problem with robbers this year.
And you wanna catch that queen.
What about my honeybees? Are they gonna be attracted to it? They're
No,
not,
the honeybees don't.
because honeybees are herbivores basically, and yellow jackets are carnivores. And so they smell that rotten smell. That's why I put the banana peel in there. It attracts them, and that's why they go in. So that banana peel is super, super, super important. Don't forget to put that in.
And you can put a piece of lunch meat in there too, because they love protein.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're carnivores. Think of them
Yeah,
as.
but when you have it
Mhm.
hanging out in the sun, I'd rather have the banana peel than the lunch meat.
I put them up high, like in trees, and I
Yes.
put them all over my out yards.
Mhm.
And they
And
really, when you see how many yellow jackets go in there and wasps,
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
big yellow one,
Mhm.
Yep.
they're amazing.
I put
Need
5 out
that.
last year, and I will probably double that this year,
Mhm.
You
because
said
I
you're
have
gonna put
2 out yards. Yeah.
I will
Just-
post, I'll post it again, the recipe, the exact.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like
Thanks,
a half
because I
a
would
cup
have
of
to hunt
sugar.
for it. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely need that. I have all kinds. I have carpenter bees. I have wasp nests on the top of my house. I have yellow jackets. And I'm always watching my hive to make sure they don't get in it.
Oh, yeah, they'll devastate them. Cheryl lost 2 last year.
She really got, I think it was too high. She was devastated.
Yep.
She didn't
Oh,
realize
that's
it was
right.
happening.
Nothing you can
until it
do.
was too late.
Yeah, Tam, look on Facebook. She'll post it there on our
I'll
page.
post it on the woman's page. If I get, I'll try to do it tonight.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And one
can't stress
other
it
thing,
enough.
I have one other question you guys might not have seen. It's a Japanese beetle trap that I found.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a trap, it's not a poison, and I just hang it, and it has
Yep.
like a thing in it that smells real good, and they fly to it and they drop in the bag and then they can't get out.
I use
Right.
them all the time.
It
But you
works
don't wanna put-
amazing.
I use them all the time, but you don't put them close to your plants that you're trying to get the Japanese beetles away from, because you just lure them to your plants. So hang them away from
That
your
makes
garden.
sense. Mm-hmm.
Are
Okay.
the bees attracted to that though? I wondered about
No.
that because we just took
The-
one down today and my
No, the
husband said.
bees
"This-
aren't attracted to that kind of pheromone because I have them hanging everywhere and bees don't get anywhere near them.
Yeah, because
Oh,
it smells, it has a sweet smell to it, you
It's a
know,
weird smell, yeah.
it is, it's different. I wondered
Right.
about that
The
though.
bag-
That's good.
When the bag fills with beetles, it stinks terribly.
Yes, I
Oh, I'm
know.
sure. Dead.
That's why you throw them away.
It worked last year, but I was not opening that bag to look in there and see if there was any bees in there, even though I was a little worried.
If you keep on using those traps, after a while, you won't need them as much because you kind of diminish the population.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
mhm,
I don't need them as much as I used to.
Perfect.
I need them in my high tunnel. They found it. No, it was on my mint. They were all over my mint last year. I've never had them on mint.
They like
Huh.
And then, you know, those fire bushes that I have coming up my driveway, they were
Mhm.
all over them. And it
Hmm.
doesn't even have buds on it or anything. They were eating the leaves.
Wow.
Yep.
So
So I am on the warpath from Japanese beetles and well, a lot of times the yellow jacket, and Amy told us this. Amy, what's her name?
It's Italian.
The Gallo?
Gallo.
Yeah, something like that. Thank you, Debbie.
Darmilio.
There it is.
Amelia,
There it
thank
is.
you.
I had the D right and the O. But she's on our group, and but she was telling us, and what the heck was I talking about?
Talking about bees and beetles and traps and
No, shoot. What did Amy tell me? Bummer. Oh, okay. Ding, ding, ding. It looks like a yellow jacket, but it's a paper wasp that looks just like a yellow jacket.
Mhm.
And so after she told me and I looked it up, I had more paper wasp than I had yellow jackets. And they look identical except for their body is just a different shape.
Hmm.
Just enough that if you saw side by side, you could say who was what. So look both of those up and teach yourself. And if you have your bee glove on, which I do it with my finger because they are easy to kill, but you just go, and I'll do this, you just go like that and they're dead.
Yep. I do
Just
them
go
all
like
day
that.
long.
And yep. One
Little
time
yellow legs.
I had I killed 30 up in my I had some wax that I was getting ready to melt, you know, which is wet with honey, and they were in there. And so I went around and I killed. I don't kill or bumblebees, but I do kill the yellow jackets type paper wasps.
I'll tell you something we have trouble with too is mud daubers. They're
Yeah.
horrible because we
Yeah,
live close to a creek and
Uh-huh.
did you know that they take live spiders up into their mud? We didn't
Yes.
know that. We knocked one of them down and a bunch, of live spiders. They hold them there to feed their babies. I was like,
Wow.
this is so
Ew.
weird.
That's
'cause
morbid. Yes.
all these live spiders fell out of this mud. And I'm thinking that is strange.
Yeah.
But
I have found them in my hives before, and they just coexist. And I was like, what the heck?
see,
And
we had some trouble with those. And then we ended up having to spray. And then I told my husband, I said, we're not going to be able to spray anymore because of the bees. But we
mhm.
got rid of all of that, all the spiders, because they were a problem.
Well,
And
okay, let me
so,
tell you about spraying. I'm, organic as it comes, if I can be for the price that it's becoming. But I, with spraying around your bees, if you spray before it blooms and you don't get a drift on top of your bees, you can go and cover your bees and spray very early in the morning and spray late at night where you know they're not going to be out. And it can be done if you use your head and do it correctly.
see, we only spray like around the perimeter of our house anyway, just right
Right.
around the outside and
You'll
up
probably
where
be
the
fine.
eaves are at. And we
Yep.
were going to do it this month being the weather's like
Yeah.
so nice
No,
because
absolutely.
we only spray once every 3 months anyway. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I was worried about that because I thought I don't want to do anything and then land on it, the residue,
Yeah,
and
no.
ended up killing my bees. So
Well,
Yeah.
I used to live in New Jersey and they would do aerial sprays.
oh,
Right.
They would notify me before an aerial spray. So what I do is I take a wet sheet and cover my hives.
Yep. Keep
they
them in
notify
there.
all
you
you have to do.
first. They
That's all you have to
notify
do.
you.
Huh?
They
They have to-
notify you.
Yeah, because I put myself on a list. So before they did any aerials, They
We
notify.
have that. We
Right.
have that list now in West Virginia, and
Yes.
Field Watch
Yeah.
is what, so.
Well, I know
go
they
to-
drop rabies pellets and they don't warn you about that.
Oh, gosh.
Lindsay, yeah,
Huh.
that's not okay
No, it's not okay.
because they smell like maple syrup.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
your cow would eat them in a heartbeat. And it's not, I mean, they just randomly drop them on your property.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is being recorded, remember?
Mhm. Yeah,
And I
well,
don't know how to edit.
well, I'm
Maybe
just
if-
saying that they do that. They do. I mean, it's
Hmm.
part, I don't know who does it, but it's to keep the rabies count down or whatever.
Here's
Mhm.
my latest organic thing.
What is it?
My latest organic thing to do. Copper nails.
Oh, wow. I bet that's expensive.
They weren't really. They weren't that expensive.
Huh.
I paid $14 for 12 of them. They're more than $1 a piece, but you drill the autumn olive in the rocks. You know, I could do chemicals to kill it, but all I do is drill a little hole, tap that in, and it's gonna kill that stupid root.
So you get
Yeah,
your,
but the bees love olive.
she has
I have
gobs
a
of it.
lot of it.
She's
I
she's
have a
swamped with it.
tremendous amount of it.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Man, I
She can kill some.
They tell you it's so invasive. They tell you not to burn it or cut it. I cut down 2 trees. And they're just intertwined in the rocks and everything else. So I'm down at the roots today, especially today with a hand drill and these things.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. Good to know. Huh.
I
Yeah.
never knew it before too. I said, wow.
Kathy's our master gardener. She just
Mhm.
That's
passed
right. I
her.
got my badge on. I just got back from my
Oh,
meeting.
shoot. I was going to tease you about that. It was like, this
I gotta take it off.
Kathy giving her presentation. Very good. Does anybody else have any questions? We could stay on here forever. Right,
Yeah.
ladies?
I have been running all day. Yeah.
I've been sitting and reading all day,
I had
watching
a
the wind
master
blow.
gardener. My freezer died. So
Oh, shoot.
so now it's a box. You know what's in this freezer box?
Yeah, your frames.
It's airtight. It's perfect. And I got another freezer.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. And Bethany, how are you doing, sweet girl? She's in her room. Is still in
Yep.
your room?
Yep, I'm in bed.
Yeah. She just had surgery.
Oh, you okay?
So she's recouping. Yeah.
Yep, hiding out in my room as much as possible.
Doing good.
Slept a lot yesterday, so
Oh, I
that,
bet.
that anesthesia knocks me out.
Yeah.